Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link together with a thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Free energy machines and recycling, it's easy to do though. It's really not difficult. The issue is getting the metals that I need to fucking work with this shit. That's the biggest issue. The biggest issue with overcommunity is being able to get access to the metals I need to make the machines.
Are they expensive or rare? Or both?
What are you making, Connells?
Yo,
They're making a time machine.
All right. So to make certain devices that I want to make, they say that the metals are rare. Titanium's one of the metals that I really do like using. Even though it's hard to work with in certain instances, it's still a great metal. These things are difficult to get to. Barium, any of it, right? The things that I need to do some of the stuff to get these metals to resonate and harmonize, like the tuning forks, right? You take one tuning fork, you got a block, a metal or whatever, you got 6 tuning forks in it. You take one out, you ding it, you set it back down in the block. The others harmonize. You start shooting electricity into something, those other metals they resonate and harmonize, and once the signal carries to the next, it resonates, and boom, you're you get added effects. It's like setting a magnet next to HHO. You get better production. It becomes more efficient, and it's not just HHO that you put a magnet to that makes it more efficient. There's other things.
I missed what you were making. What kind of machine are you making? I just popped on. So what are you doing now?
Well, I'm not making anything right this second. I have a couple designs in my head, and I don't talk about my inventions to anyone. So.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah. He doesn't even talk about him to God because I might rat him out to another inventor.
No, it just, dude, I did this once before.
I thought you were doing something for Flat Earth. I don't know. Sorry.
Back like 6 years ago, I came up with an invention. I was on an open forum. I was talking to a bunch of people about it. 2 years later, I saw it on TV.
What was the invention? Hey. Well, hold on. What was the invention in that instance? What did you see on? Well, we might have seen it on TV.
That one was the spatula oven mitt.
Hold on, spatula oven mitt. So it's an oven mitt spatula.
Right. They have a spatula.
Guys, hold on. I'm fascinated. Tell me more.
But that was it, right? It's just like a normal standard, full size oven mitt with a spatula in it. It's just sticking out so that you could, not burn yourself while you're scraping stuff.
Gotcha.
That's just one.
So someone.
I'm not the only one.
Hold on, I just want to get the rest of the story. So you're saying someone actually stole that from you and then next thing you know, it's on TV on some infomercial or something.
I gave the idea out publicly, right? And then 2 years later, it's on TV. The device that I was designing and describing is on TV. Now, I don't know if anyone in that group stole it. I don't know if they took the idea and said, hey, man, this guy had a crazy idea and told a friend. And their friend was like, hell, that'd make money. Let's go build it. I don't know.
Well, I haven't
So-
purchased one of those. They sound interesting,
Yep.
but I have not even seen one on the market.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I use that joke. I use that joke about him not telling God so God doesn't rat him out to somebody else, because there is this belief among certain inventor circles that once you have an idea, it essentially becomes common in some kind of metaphysical sense, sort of like the 100th monkey effect, where all of a sudden this idea is implanted into humanity in general, and then all the resources are competing to realize it. And so inventors basically believe in some sense that when they have the idea, somebody else is also having the idea, either because they're telepathically communicating or the idea itself exists as some kind of probability that's being downloaded, just like the 100th monkey.
Yeah, but the
Concept.
the 100th monkey effect isn't true.
Well, it's Nathan. It's very motivating for someone to get them off their butt to do something about it.
Your mic's heavily distorted. I don't know what's wrong with your
Well,
John.
the point is that in certain inventions in the past, there have been this idea of people who are completely disconnected from each other simultaneously having similar ideas. And it might just be social cultural, like once you reach a certain stage of advancement, the next idea is just generally going to happen spontaneously. But these guys just posit the idea that there's a metaphysical reason for it.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think it's if I kind of understand when people describe it, because I can see a scenario where like minds are focused on a similar problem but in different places, and then they coincidentally come up with the same idea at the same time because they've been addressing the same problem in the same field. That I can understand. It's just a coincidence in that regard. But as for the masses 100th monkey effect, I know for certain the 100th monkey effect has got no actual demonstrable examples. It's just a story to permeate that myth into society, that these ideas that have clearly just been passed by word of mouth as far as I can ascertain, and we've got an example on the panel where exactly that's happened. But for the fact that he had disseminated that invention, the spatula oven glove, on an open forum, there's a fair chance that it would never have made it to someone else's pocket. He'd have just been the inventor and maybe put it into production, maybe not. Maybe we'd never seen it if he'd have never talked about it. But I just don't think that I don't think we have the capacity to just telepathically absorb information that hasn't been put into the realm of our knowledge. I just don't think that's possible.
Hey, Nathan, is this any better?
Yes, a little bit.
There's another social phenomenon when it comes to inventions, especially with children, right? So you have a child, you're raising the child. The child essentially invents something on the spot, right? And some people will look at that child and be like, oh, that's already been done, as if the child doesn't deserve accolades for thinking up the idea on their own. Like they should be isolated from the socio-cultural history and be like, wow, that's so great that you came up with that, even though it has been done, a million times in the past.
No, I totally agree with you. I think absolutely correct. Why would you suddenly say it's the Truman Show? So Truman's talking about being an adventurer, and the teacher just cuts him down completely on the spot. She pulls down a map and says it's all been discovered already. It's already been done. And you're like, okay, but shouldn't you just commend him for his desire to want to go out into the world and discover? Isn't that something that should be nurtured? Well, not in the Truman Show, and not in your example.
Well, that's like you said before. It's like when you learn about certain things like flat Earth and other things, all of a sudden there's a wonder because there's now things to discover, rather than just be in a box where everyone's like, this is already laid in stone and everything's already charted.
The biggest problem with this
Well,
world, and it was being talked about yesterday, it touched on yesterday when we were talking about Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker, right? You've got the dark side and you've got the light side. And in most things in life, that's how I found them to be. There is a certain karmic balance to how things present themselves. For example, when I was earning really good money, I had absolutely no time. None. Now, by that, I mean, if you're out in a different country, sleeping in a hotel, that's you on the clock, essentially, the entire time. If you're out on the road, driving between the dealer and wherever, you have no time. But you've got lots of money coming in. So then you go to the other end of the extreme, right? Well, I want lots of time. Well, then you've got no money. Yeah, plenty of time on your hands, but very little money to do with that time. So it's a kind of balance. Same with this. Flat Earth is a perfect example of that. On the one hand, for some, yeah, and now I can't just pigeonhole in either or category, and there's a lot of grey areas, so just give me some slack. But for some, like you've just described, it's a magical discovery. It opens your eyes to things that you'd never even considered looking at in the first place, let alone wondering about. Yeah, that's magical. But what's the flip side? Well, the ridicule, the perception of being dumb for doing that. Those are all negative things that come along with what I perceive to be a massively positive thing. Likewise with the community, I get a huge amount of support to be able to keep the show running when I'm poor, because it's not a massively lucrative career doing flat earth education videos. So the community support me. However, that same exact community will ridicule me, report me, shot me to the police, and so on and so forth. It is the same community. So it's a weird yin and yang that we sort of experience in life.
Wait a second. You're saying the anti-flat earthers and ballers are part of our community?
Absolutely, without question.
Oh, I can't get with that. They may be on the outskirts, but they're not part of our community.
Yeah, they are.
They're there to do evil.
They're part of your community. Doesn't matter whether you like it or not. If you're let's say you're in the electronics industry, we're talking about ripping people off, right? If you invent something and then send it to China to be manufactured, there's a good chance that factory is going to rip you off and just copy your design and send it off to someone else to be made, or they'll just make it themselves and sell it under a different name, right? So do you turn around and go, that's not part of my industry? I mean, the part that I consider part of my industry is the bit that gets a proper barcode, gets put through everyone's books, sold at retail and enjoyed by a customer, as opposed to the one bought on the black market that's under a different brand. That's not really part of the market. Like, yeah, it is. That's absolutely part. You've got charlatans in your market.
I see what you're saying.
We've got scumbags in our community. There's no other way of looking at it. And they're all living in fear. They're the most dangerous people, the ones that are terrified. That's why they do the extreme things to us that they do, because they're terrified. That's the most dangerous opponent you can have. Someone in fear.
I just realized you're right, because when you're living in a neighborhood, everybody's in the community, good or bad. The mafia guy and the pastor of a church live in the same community.
Yeah. They not only are people who are in fear dangerous to others sometimes, but they're also vulnerable to people that are going to offer them security.
There's the yang to my yin. Why would fear be the method of control by the powers that should not be? Well, because it's designed to work on you when you're most vulnerable, right? So on the one hand, that's a dangerous person. On the flip side, yeah, look how vulnerable that person is. Yeah, yin and yang.
Yep, and if we look through our history, whether you believe history or not, there's at least examples of people who have said that this is the way in which these regimes operate. That they set up a paradigm, they set up the counter paradigm, they set up the clash, and then they set up the salvation and the fallout, so that the people, when they're the most hungry, will take whatever bread is given to them, and that person that provides them the bread will then become their new leader. Right. And this is happening in the flat Earth community, where people's truths have been pulled out. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, arrange for the people to have no bread, but make it seem like everyone in the community is starving everyone else of bread. So the guy who's buying the bread moans at the bread maker, and the bread maker moans at the flour distributor, and so on and so forth. So they're all at odds. They're all annoyed with each other, and eventually everybody runs out of bread. It all goes skyrocketing. Well, if you're the person actually in control of that, if you're the person that's controlling the farmers or destroying crops or doing whatever you can do to make sure that happens, you're then the guy that provides the crappy bread. because you don't want to sell them bread anymore. You want to sell them something that's a bit like bread, but not bread. So when that gets introduced, everybody's grateful, because at that point, nobody's got any bread. Yeah? So suddenly the salvation comes from the person that's instigated the entire thing in the first instance. We highlight this when when we're talking about how in Flat Earth we've got a paradigm and a counter paradigm that are almost the same in many respects, like Globe Earth having boats falling over their horizon and Flat Earth having ascribed to them boats falling over the edge of a disc. It's in essence the same thing, but set up so that whoever's put those two in place, certainly not us, can watch us, the people, argue about it amongst ourselves. And the outcome's always favourable for the paradigm that's in place, i.e. Globe Earth. Doesn't matter which way you argue that point, everyone's got the idea that there's going to be a boat falling over something. Yeah? Well, in the Globe Earth claim, that's what they've got. So it's best to keep it arguing within the framework of the paradigm that you want to be victorious. So that's what they do. They just set up the feast of nonsense for us to gobble down and spew up later, and the rhetoric of the day, which is heliocentrism, and then just watch it unfold. You don't have to do anything as long as you've set all those narratives in place, which they have. Like I say, we go through them. Dome versus sky vacuum, ether versus dark matter. What else we got? Have the Earth curve edge versus the falling over a disc. I'm sure the list goes on.
Right, and you're given that in the sense of two paradigms, but there's also ancillary paradigms. So we're smaller players that aren't the main players, right? Take advantage of the chaff that are lost in the confusion, and they become micro leaders. So rather than being the powers, they're just smaller powers, and they get themselves a following, and they take advantage of the people in the exact same way that the main powers are planning to take advantage of people. But because they're a niche, the people involved think that they found a hidden truth that's not that same type of thing, simply because it's on a micro scale and niche. They're like, I found a secret truth. And they're just being taken advantage of in the exact same way that they were previously, because the bread that they're starved from is a worldview and an ideology and an explanation for the universe, etc. And so somebody comes along with that bread and they gobble it up because they're starving.
Exactly. That's the feast of nonsense. You get your paradigm taken away, and for some, they're left in a wilderness, a little bit scared because they don't know anything anymore, and they're walking around going, "Where's the next guru? Who's going to tell me what the world is? Somebody tell me, quick!" And someone turns up on their path and goes, "I know what the world is. Let me tell you all about it." "Oh, do you know it's not what they said too?" "Yeah, I do too, therefore you can trust me. Now listen to my nonsense. Make sure you go along this path and regurgitate it to other people you see on the path, okay? Yeah? Ether. Dome. Yeah? Go and regurgitate this stuff. Sky vacuum with pizza pie rising up at 9.8 meters per second squared. Boat falling over the edge of it. Go forth and repeat. You can trust me."
Yeah. So I'll give you a salient example in this arena that happened recently. Obviously, we all know about Ken Wheeler. So Ken Wheeler sets up a false dichotomy, which is either the world is vibrational, spontaneous energy from another realm, or it's atomism. That's false dichotomy because Ken Wheeler himself borrows ideas from Mr. Bill Gates, who is the founder and main proponent of rope hypothesis, which is a third viable option. So in Ken Wheeler's quotations, he says there's only these two options, while borrowing ideas from a person that posits a third option, while negating the fact that he borrowed the ideas from that person by not referencing them and not saying that this person has a third hypothesis. In other words, he's deceiving his masses that follow him. Gee, I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because humans sometimes are prideful of their own ideas, and they'd rather restrict other people from information that might counteract their idea because they have a religious agenda, Mr. Wheeler being a Buddhistic monist himself, right? So his interpretations are filtered through his religious goggles, and that's just the facts. And if people don't recognize that that's what Ken Wheeler's doing, right, and which a lot of human beings do, then they need to wake up to the reality of the nature of humanity real quick, lest they get fooled.
Lest they get fooled. That's the most important bit. Be critical of what people say. Don't necessarily accept everything on face value. Primary source research, any research. Some people don't do anything. They think they've researched it if they've confirmed it in a headline, the thing they heard repeated to them. Like, the standards are just really low, which is bad, but it's also good. Because if the standards are that low, I feel that they've been made that low by dumbing people down over the years. And that doesn't mean that it's beyond general Joe Normie's ability to have a bit of critical thinking skills instilled upon him just by hearing people being a bit more sceptical and going, really? Really? You say that's true, but is it?
I do want to point something out. We're past the point of false paradigms with the agree disagree. I just wanted to point that out for where we're at in this discussion.
That depends on the proposition at hand. Because if you just say agree and disagree has been removed, then there's only two camps. Either you agree with me or you disagree. If you disagree, you're the other. And if you're the other, I can then impugn your character or whatever, or just disassociate with you. But more often than not, what human beings do is once they've identified the other, they then subclass that other as being less moral, less intelligent, less worthy of respect, and sometimes even worthy of death. That's what has happened in the humanity's past, right? So whenever you establish a new paradigm and you establish an other, right, there's going to be human beings that take that as I can now morally abuse that person.
Yeah, like
I
yesterday.
don't
That
think.
was a fun one.
Hang on. I don't think John was referencing that at all. I think he has. It's past agree disagree based on celestial navigation.
Right. Yeah, they're using a flat Earth as well. Like there is no argument to be had. I mean, unless you want to argue with delusion.
Well, I mean, the issue is I disagreed with a lot of stuff yesterday and got called names, even though I couldn't get an answer to my disagreements or any of my questions. Sounds a lot like communism to me.
Nobody called you names, Cuddles. I'm just breaking your chops. You know
You
that.
did. Hold on. One, it did happen. Two, gaslight somebody else, dude.
Okay, what was
Oh,
your
stop being a
question?
little bitch. Now I am calling your name.
What question didn't get answered? Can you please repeat it?
You and freaking Dice both.
Hold on, we've got to calm Neil down
video.
first. Neil's totally triggered by ether, more so than normal.
Yeah, because what happens the next day, the day before, should never affect the next day. It's happened to me and piss off at somebody, the next day it's over. You want to hold it a grudge, you go fucking right ahead.
Neil, it says you. Every time Cuddle speaks, you're like, oh, is this about ether?
No. It was just topical. He's making it personal. He's got feelings all in this game. I don't get it.
Got to agree, Neil.
Cuddles, every time you speak and you do your phenomenon that can't be science, you are referring back to ether. Stop the bullshit.
Yes, mother.
What?
Whatever.
All right, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah,
I think we've calmed down now. Hopefully, not Neil. John can ask you his question and we'll go from there.
Not even close.
No, of course not.
Go ahead, John. I'm done.
I got a question, though. A very profound moral question. Once everyone knows the earth is flat, will people stop changing their baby diapers in parking lot and just throwing them right in the parking space?
No, people are dirty animals.
Back to John's question, please. Cuddles.
What question didn't you have answered, Cuddles?
I said I'd have to go back to the video and listen to it again because there was too much going on. There was too much. You're an umpty. You're an idiot. You don't know shit. Blah blah blah. It's too much of that going on.
Fair enough. Can't disagree.
I did put it in chat, right? When QE was like, hey, come on, come off the mute, Cuddles. I put it in the chat. Why? I asked him why. It's so far, the environment isn't civil, and he's not being civil. So I asked him, why? It's not civil. There's nothing civil. So I come off of mute yesterday. Great. Still not civil. So this forum is probably not the place for this conversation.
But we did get to various different points in the discussion when you were like,
Poor baby.
no need. There was various points in
No,
the discussion where you
Neil, back off. That's not necessary. But he's got a point, Nathan. If you moderate tighter, then you're going to shut down the. It's going to be less uncivil. Let's put it that way. I can't think of the right words to say it, but it gets crazy when someone's trying to say something, even when we disagree with it. When people are jumping all over that guy's case until he's done saying it, and then we can have a time for respond. But 6, 7 people at the most, it seems like, but usually 1 or 2 on the regular basis will just rumpus the question there.
Well, I'll give an example of what I believe part of my question was. Right, I'm looking at a situation where I'm going in asking questions, and I'm hearing consensus. It's fantastic that there's consensus. It's good for them, right? Good for them. But I'm asking questions about the status quo. I see something that's not seen by the people touting the status quo. But I'm a heretic for asking questions when asking questions and debating and figuring things out. That's science, not consensus.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link together with a thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Please be nice to me.
Okay. Hello,
Okay.
hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone in Discord.
I know where you got your freaking name, Cuddles.
Okay, let's not continue in jokes and in talk from the pre-show. None of the live audience know what's going on, so we'll just move on to housekeeping, if that's okay by all of the panel and Discord. Yes, Nathan.
That's all good. All good. All good. Let's go. Woo!
Good, good, good. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
I gave you evidence for that, but I was rumpused, and no one heard it.
What? Sorry, am I in La La Land here? What do you mean you gave it me and we were rumpused? What?
Well, I can describe the situation in which I gave you the evidence, but I can't give you the evidence again.
See, that's why I like John. He's on the same page.
Let me get it
as
straight. You're going to
Well
describe...
You mean it was destroyed and too painful a process to put it back together again?
No, he's saying he's already said it, and he can describe the circumstances in which he already said it. But as for actually providing the evidence, he's not going to and can't do that. But he might, as well as that, I assume, John, maybe appeal to the fact that I'm stopping you, right?
That is exactly correct. You don't want to hear the truth.
Good afternoon, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone.
So, we're asking for Earth curve. Is there any evidence of it, despite the humorous aside about distractions from the actual evidence? Any evidence of Earth curve, physical horizon?
It's over there in your thought experiment.
No, physical horizon. Got to speak up. Fading facts, Nathan. Any evidence of the physical horizon called Earth curve?
No, just a misconception of a differential between two flat planes. That's
brilliant. Yeah, that's a misconception
maybe if you
about
stand
dip.
on a really high mountain.
We might get to that. We might get to that because that would be a differential correction also if Al Biruni didn't assume a curved surface that he'd just measured flat. But the differential I want to focus on because that's a nice round out to, I don't know, a month of a little bit of argument coming our way because they can just about see a crack to weasel in an assumption of R. However, their dip angle correction is actually a differential correction from two flat planes, and I'm hoping John will expand on that. Go ahead, John.
What's happened? Oh, great. The baby's away. I'm sorry.
Should be. It's an outrage. Let's move on. We'll come back to Earth curve as the physical geometric horizon when dip angle correction being performed has a differential correction between two planes. Maybe we'll expand on that later. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Is this thing on?
We wouldn't expect to see it. Reference frames ruined. But Neil deGrasse Tyson still thinks that a ball would deviate slightly in order to make a field goal.
Okay. So the globe claims 15 degrees an hour drift. That's Earth turning beneath as a second non-inertial spinning reference frame. And that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson is claiming. So again?
Reference frame being not usable, but you would still feel the angular momentum if that was the case.
Not necessarily. So Adam actually did a calculation in that regard once. It's about 4 years ago, so he might not be able to. He might not back me up in this regard, and I certainly haven't done the math. But unfortunately, no. The actual physical effects, while you could measure them occurring in a very minuscule way, whether or not you'd actually perceive it is a different story. Am I remembering this correctly, Adam?
You are. That was Ball Earth versus Carousel. So there was the postulation that if it is spinning, the rate of spin would contribute different centrifugal forces at different latitudes. So you would definitely weigh less at the equator based on the mechanics. I think we worked it out. It was only small, but it was there, wasn't it? So there was a purported effect. The other point of interest with that is that the angle at which the centrifugal force will be applied would vary at different latitudes as well as the intensity of the force. The numbers off the top of my head I can't remember. I'll dig it out when I get home. But yeah, that was just based on their supposition, because that it's spinning, and if it is spinning, these forces are in effect, and what would the effect be at different latitudes?
But the bit that I want you to focus on is the actual the force that you would perceive. Do you remember that bit? I don't want you to give me the numbers just from memory, just so it's coherent in this regard. It was minuscule, right? The actual perceivable.
It wasn't minuscule. It was measurable. It was within a Newton or so, wasn't it? When I worked it out. Let's see if I can find it. Give me a sec.
Okay, so just to dumb this down in case anybody needs it dumbing down, we're talking about the rim velocity. So if you're talking about a roundabout, if you're clinging onto the outside edge, the rim of the roundabout has a velocity. And that's the velocity we're talking about. Now, initially, Adam's talking about the differentials between different points on a sphere that's rotating and how those would give you a different angular force. But overall, the bit I'm focused on is to answer the guy in Discord's question, who was Sci something or other. Sci-Vamp, was whether or not we'd notice, because that's a common misconception. It's like, yeah, I believe Adam's numbers, again, this is going back a long time, suggested that, yes, you could definitely measure it if it was occurring. We can't, it isn't. But how much you would notice it is a different story. In other words, it's not like suddenly you go, whoa, I'm moving 1,000 miles an hour. Not really.
Can I object to this yet, or do you want Adam to get the evidence?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, well, Adam's going to be a while. I'll shout out Jardu first. He's just speaking on behalf of Quantum Eraser. So he says, "Hi, Flurfs. Love all of you, even the ether lovers." From QE. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jardu. Go ahead, John. You just crap all over this. Or yeah.
Well, Adam mentioned that he was presupposing the sphere and the forces they say would be at play. But we don't have a radial value to Earth, so we're not on a sphere.
Well, let's establish that firmly. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
It's a flat plane. It can't have a radius. But
Black Swan. Arwin brought up Al-Baruni. I don't know if Arwin wants to take the reins in that regard, unless John does. Or I will, if not, either.
I just want to accuse you of being unfair.
Why? What did I do?
I mean, you're asking for a radius that they do have, but you're asking for an Earth radius, which they don't have.
So you're saying it's unreasonable that I don't allow them to give me a radius from a reified model? That's unreasonable, you think?
Exactly, dude. They're living in the model, right? So you're essentially a modelist. Kind of like a racist, but against people who believe in models.
Yeah, you're like Sleeping Warrior. That's what Sleeping Warrior says. You've got to let them beg the question a bit. Got to let them beg the question a bit. Sorry, Owen, say again.
Right. So I used a foil of you being unfair to illustrate that they're essentially have an incoherent statement when they say they have a radius of the Earth. The question itself illustrates how incoherent their position is. But they're taking a model, like you said, reifying it as reality.
Nobody lives in a model. Come on.
Yeah, that's
what about Model Man?
Model Man? His radius.
Yeah, Man.
Barbie's radius. Go on, Arwin. I was hoping we'd go through Al-Baruni's measurement of a flat plane. I'm going to start hinting at what we're actually going to be talking about if someone else doesn't pick up this subject.
Oh, God. Sure. I'm really terrible at that part, though. But it was amazing. But yeah, how Al-Baruni supposedly measured the radius by measuring the horizon. But he first had to actually size up his position on the mountain by calculating it all on a flat plane, if I remember correctly.
Right, he's taking a differential from two different angles that he takes. So he's taking an elevation angle and getting closer. Or further away, I forget how the story goes. Presumably getting closer, because he's about to go up it. So yeah, we'll say getting closer. and in the difference between the angle, he uses the trig to figure out how high it is. But in order to do that, he had to take 2 elevation angles and establish that the ground he's measuring them on is flat, because that's how he derives the height, with a triangle, with a flat baseline, and a 90 degree at the bottom of it. It's an elevation angle measurement, 2 of them. So once he's measured the ground flat and got the height of the mountain, he goes up it, looks back down towards the horizon, and says that the ground beneath the mountain is now curving, with a radius value that is going to derive in violation of the very measurement he uses in that calculation to get the height. So he first measures Earth flat, then assumes Earth's got a violating measurement that defies his original height measurement to derive the R value.
Would he realize that he had done that?
He probably didn't even exist. Do you know Al-Biruni
Right.
existed?
Maybe. I don't think it's even. I think he was probably set up to do this. It was
It's like saying-
framed. if
It's like
he
saying,
existed.
did John Connor really steer the car into the forklift without murdering everybody inside the cab? Did he really do that? Did he really
Nathan,
pour liquid nitrogen on the T1000? Is that really how it went down? It's like,
Nathan,
Go
there's
on.
another way. Go on, John.
I was just going to say that when you put this in a graph, the altitude versus the angle of correction, it forms a curve.
correction of what?
It's a mathematical. It's the correction between 2 flat planes, but when you graph it, it forms like a curve, and that's their Earth curve. The correction between 2 flat planes. They look at that they look at that graph and reify it into the curve of the Earth. I think Adam has actually has the graph that shows that.
Well, you could show it visually. If you went to Metabunk's Earth curve calculator, akin to the one that's on screen now, and you raise in altitude, what you keep drawing out is tangent points to a horizon that's getting further away. And what you're saying is if you map that on a graph as you raise in altitude, what you draw out with all the points on the straight line is tangent points they can derive a curve from mathematically. And that's what they're actually doing. But if you look at what they're in reality measuring, because we don't look side onto our own head, but we have eye/camera top left. And what does it say on the right-hand side below where it says eye level? Anybody see that in G+ and for the live audience? What does it say, John?
Surface level.
It says surface level. So you've got your eye level and you've got surface level. And you've got a differential between the two. That's your dip correction. They call it horizon dip. And what's horizon dip representing with an X marked in red with a label? What does that say? Horizon. That is their Earth curve. So what John's just described is the mathematical derivation from a differential correction between 2 flat planes, in this case on this diagram, eye level and surface level. I'll just say that bit again. Surface level. And they derive a curve from it. Your
I was
Earth
gonna
curve
say-
only exists in this maths.
I was going to say,
If you would humour me,
You're doing all right, Adam. You're okay. You're a good chap.
I'm struggling with reception here a bit, so it's a bit.
Oh, do you want me to humour
robot-y.
you some more? Everybody loves you.
Yeah.
You're all right. Nobody hates you.
Thank God for that. If you would humour me a second, if you go to Master B, Nathan, when I go on holiday, I do a little bit of tweeting. And it's took me a few days to get the boys there, with lots of ad hom and straw mans and stuff, but you just could go to
You want this
Master B
tweet?
page 1.
You want the tweet?
Yeah, so I've just like, it's hard to keep all these things in some kind of semblance of order, so it's the best I've managed to do from tons.
Okay, cup your mic.
But
Cup your mic.
yeah, sorry, is that a bit better?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay, so if we just go to the first page, it's just me talking about they presented a few bits, but what they had presented was a long list of things. There was about 15. Number 6 was the horizon. So I said, well, let's go there. And this is kind of where it relates to this. If you get to the next slide, it's just a little bit more rattering. I've pointed out to them in terms of the horizon. I'm just trying to get them to respect, first of all, that stuff shrinks into the distance. You see then, I've mentioned, are they aware of Rayleigh criteria and limited angles to the decks, and a tirade of abuse asking me for maps and can you prove a map and so on and so forth. The third slide, I just thought to maybe ask them a little question. So I said, if the Earth is a ball, then the distance to the horizon could be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Correct. We're getting somewhere. Roughly, that does not take into account refraction. And what I'm actually trying to get them to admit is, what is the horizon? Is it the leading edge of a ball? So I'm asking them, what sort of refraction are we talking here? Refraction of light, or your imaginary 7/6R based terrestrial refraction, which is never observed or measured, only the mass that holds you all together. Could you clarify which one are you claiming? Any refraction, this is the level of detail they've got, because it's just a magic word that fixes their ball for. Next slide. So as you see there, so no progress on the working map. It seems to be very important to them. So as I said, straw man doesn't demonstrate that does demonstrate the weakness of your position. In comes another white knight. Nope, it reveals you've got nothing, and that it's not in any conceivable way a straw man. Don't use terms you don't understand. So funny how you all crawl out the woodwork for something you know is false. Next slide.
We've almost lost you completely to wind.
You got me? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay now. Go ahead.
We all know the Earth is... You got me again? We all know flat Earth is a lie and a scam. Is that what you're talking about? So I've responded with the modus tollens and the black swan there. Next slide. This was debunked literally minutes after it was posted. Keyword, refraction. Again, please stop embarrassing yourself. It's painful to watch. So I ask, what sort of refraction are we talking about here? So now you acknowledge refraction. Again, straw man. Why didn't the formula you posted yesterday account for refraction? Geometric. Please define what sort of refraction you claim is occurring to render that flat image. Here we go. Hang on. Do you acknowledge refraction exists? And if so, why did you not post it in the formula? I'll ask again. What type of refraction are you claiming here? Answer a question for once the same to me, which is ironic, obviously. You didn't answer my map question. Next slide. We get the picture of the distortion of the far oil rig. What is causing the extreme distortion if you are trying to claim refraction does not exist? Interesting. So the refraction makes cranes go wobbly like that, but also straightens out the sea so it looks flat. Your arguments are starting to crack, aren't they? And this is the one. Yes, that's exactly what happens. You're not expected to understand this. So this is the root of their claim when pressed on it. That's exactly. Magic refraction is the only thing that makes them, as far as I can see here, still reify the horizon as the leading edge of a sphere, even though it renders as flat. And we can see that the effects of some refraction on the platforms. So as I've said, I'll share this thread on Flat Earth Debate. It took a few days, but I finally got the Dumbo admission for their fundamental religious belief in a ball. And I said, thanks guys, it's been fun. I've had a tirade of ad hom and straw mans and many other things. I'm still getting poked now, but I've done having fun with them.
Good job.
Got the point.
Just
That's exactly what happened.
Only one thing you didn't say. Do you know what it is? When he pointed out bendy cranes.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
No, not quite. I'll just give Adam a couple more seconds and then I'll tell him.
Well, I mean, there's the loss of any kind of location in terms of straight lines to anything. But these guys
not quite.
are well
Let me just tell you, I'll put you out of misery. So, when it comes to them saying, what's this? Look, there's bendy cranes. Obviously, there's quote-unquote refraction. Now, bearing in mind he's not answered Adam, what refraction? What type of refraction are you referring to? Now, if he's talking about the visual representation in a photograph, that's not their refraction. Their refraction is 7 over 6 of a radius value that they can't get in geometric terms if they can't get r, and they need a straight line tangent to get it. But he didn't get to that. He just pointed out the bendy cranes. What Adam didn't do, no offence, because other than that, fantastic job, was say our horizon isn't the argument. Yeah? That's the argument. The horizon, not the cranes. The horizon is beyond the cranes. So if I go back to the image, the horizon is specifically what we're arguing about, because their claim is that the horizon's Earth curve, a physical limitation to our view. And here it is, beyond the oil rig, at 9.2 miles. Now, bearing in mind that, according to them, there should be a limitation at 1.2 miles. But it's beyond this oil rig. Now, that's what we're asking. Why is the horizon that's supposed to be a physical hill in your way behind the thing it's supposed to block? That's the argument. Well, these cranes have got bendy bends. And? Why is the horizon beyond it? Well, because it's refracted. Oh, so refracted at a rate of r that is no longer useful to you if you can't get r. Further to that, 7 over 6r is a mathematical value. It's not refraction. You might call it terrestrial refraction, but that's not light bending. Snell's law, if you want to call refraction an optical effect. But that's not 7 over 6 of a radius value. That's 7 over 6 of a radius value, and it needs a radius value with a straight line tangent to a geometric horizon. That's how you get 7 over 6 of r. So their refraction's void. And it's not the argument. The argument is the horizon. A hill in the way. That isn't in the way, it's behind what it's supposed to block.
Yeah, that would have been an impossible task to get to. I mean, there are other bits where we've got the second one where they go, aha, look, see, part of the second platform's obscured. But to get them, it's like pulling teeth. So I was more than chuffed to get them to admit that that's exactly what happens. The whole image renders magically for them. I was trying to get them to the limitations, but like I say, as soon as you get them anywhere, they come back with, have you got a map? Have you got a map? Twitter's very frustrating like that, which is why for the previous days I'd been inviting them on to Flat Earth debate, but there was an appeal to format fallacy at that point.
Well, I'd take a leaf out of Anthony Riley's book.
Got a map.
In regards
That's
to the
what I
map,
was getting ready to say, Brian.
say again. If you're not?
And no way was I engaging in that one.
Well,
it's hard work keeping them on track.
Hold on. Anthony's way of engaging when people in the comments say, have you got a map? Is to say, they're all flat. Now, if they decide that they're going to take their argument away from the black swan, which is what you're saying, I don't want to take it away from the black swan, that's where they want to go. But now, recently, with the Haversine formula and our information being disseminated to the audience by John, and indeed to the Globers via Roofy, is now abundantly clear. I mean, we did a little skit yesterday that Arwen put together with the dark side and the light side. What's it called? The light side of the Force? It's not light side, is it? Nobody's telling me. Anyway, dark side and light side of the Force, because the globe Earth mathematics have been derived from a flat plane in the first instance. That's how they are made. So when it comes to them saying, where's your map? They're flat. Well, that's because it's a globe projection. Your globe projection came from a celestial sphere, which is flat. Where they're going to go then?
By the way, they never reference it to the light side. Luke does say that he could turn his father back to the good side, but never say light side.
There we go. But it is light versus dark, good versus evil.
Absolutely.
I think I almost lost the point in that.
The point being that the model has come from a flat Earth. If you're to have a fundy try and distract away from the fact they haven't got a geometric physical horizon to derive R to claim refraction with by asking you for a map, and typically you go, I don't want to shy away from the argument that we're actually having with your red herring. However, Anthony's got a quick and swift way of dealing with the red herring. All maps are flat. Response from globe believer or anti-flat Earth heretic. That's been derived from a globe. It's a globe projection. Response from flat earther, so we're only 3 lines in. That was derived from the celestial sphere model, which is a flat plane. Haversine formula. End of discussion. All maps are flat, and they started that way with the measurements. What's that? You got a globe in between? That's a nice shit sandwich you got there. Makes no difference. The measurements were taken from a plane. The maps in the end result are flat. What have you got? The bit in between that nobody's using? Nobody's holding a globe and navigating with it. Who cares that you say it's gone through a process of being transposed to a globe and back to flat again?
I was a bit more. I went your route actually on that. Like I said, these threads go everywhere. So that I've just posted in Master B what I responded, because the amount of requests for a map. So I responded with this quote: "The map is not the territory. The world is not the thing. The word is not the thing it describes. Whenever the map is confused with the territory, a semantic disturbance is set up in the organism. The disturbance continues until the limitation of the map is recognised." That didn't get out too well. No,
that was perfect. I mean, what's being described with that quote is reification. If you look up reification as a definition, it has next to it, the map is not the terrain. To give you an example of how reification is true. Now, reification comes in many different forms. If you say flat Earth says that Earth has an edge with boats falling over it, because you don't want to accept the fact that you've got a globe Earth with boats falling over a horizon. But if you say flat Earth says that, that's a reification fallacy. Flat Earth doesn't have lips. Now, if you say flat earthers, it's a stereotyping fallacy. But if you say flat Earth says it, then you're mistaking the concept or description of something as being a person with lips that can describe things. Well, that's not the case. Now, in this case, we're talking about the map being described as your actual reality, a different type but the same fallacy, reification. The map isn't the ground you're standing on. And earlier in the show, we had John saying it's unreasonable, or maybe it was abstruse, that I shouldn't allow our opponents to come and say, I've got an R value in my model. We're not living on your model. The map is not the terrain. And the map's flat. What's that? It came from a globe projection. Yeah, and that was derived from a flat plane measurement.
Going back to that okey doke real quick, where these guys that Adam were talking about were talking about the distortion of the oil rigs, right? Not comprehending that the argument's actually about the horizon. Can you really blame like normies for doing that? Because even the subject matter experts do that. I'm always thinking about National Geographic when they've got a flag in the water and talking about how the stripes are disappearing from the flag in the water.
Let go of your mic. Just let go of your mic. Just let go of your mic.
Sorry. Completely ignoring the horizon in the background. Like, the subject matter experts do that. How can we expect the normies to just understand it? At least the ones that fight it.
The subject matter. Sorry, the subject matter. Hang on. Yeah, you go, Brian, because you've been waiting.
Thanks, Ted. I'll be quick. Adam, what I would have said how straight away when they agreed that that's what you should see, right? They debunked that photograph that they put up where you couldn't see all of the buildings, right? Because it's like, so it's not geometric then, so no globe. Good luck to you.
Exactly. Yeah. When it came to the initial responses to the Black Swan, well, it's refracted, so that debunks every claim made at the Isle of Man. Then, when you said it was a physical limitation blocking the bottom, it wasn't.
No.
It's too big a leap for them. It's too. All I wanted was either a recognition that the horizon is the leading edge, or what I got, which was that refraction means that the leading edge of a ball renders flat, which was probably more than I hoped for when you engage with these questions. You're never going to get anything. Like I said, as soon as you make a pertinent point, you'll throw, "Where's your map? Where's your map?" It's like getting blood out of a stone, but that's why I was quite pleased, because I actually got the admission. Yeah, that they don't know what their refraction is. Most fundamental. I kept pressing them to give me the description of 7/6R. I kept leading them, and some of them even named it. Is this one you're talking about? So they're not the sort of victories you can get face to face. Like I said, which is why I invited them on.
Yeah, well, they're not going to come because Ferrum's too unfair.
Hold on. Everyone stop. there's a question that's been left out there that hasn't been answered, so I just want to address it first. I can't remember who asked it to credit them. They said, why don't normies recognise this? It might have been Arwin. Well, but I do want to address that, right? Because most normies, flat earth heretics aside, or globe earth heretics aside, your average normie doesn't appreciate the essence of a globe earth claim in the first instance. And by that, what I mean is, most normies don't realise that the horizon is supposed to be a hill getting in the way. Yeah? So if you just imagine for a moment that you're chatting with a normal person that's not involved in this discussion, and you take a discussion about Earth curve from the ground to the air, yeah, they might start to describe the lack of Earth curve being present, not being able to see Earth curving. Now, that is fundamentally opposed to the claim that the horizon literally is just Earth curve, regardless of whether or not they say they see it bending. But they're essentially, a normie, disavowing their own basic comprehension of what the globe Earth is literally claiming. It claims the horizon is a hill in the way of your view. But most people don't appreciate that. So when you present what is seemingly quite a complicated argument to a normie, modus tollens, if the Earth's a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to Earth curve, the hill in the way, can be no more than the maths that Earth curve suggests says it can be. And if it's beyond the maths that the Earth curve says it should be at, the physical hill in the way, then it's not a physical hill in the way, it's not Earth curve. That's the argument in essence. So because it's not phrased the way I just phrased it, when an opponent says, well, here's how you overcome it to the normie, because they've done a quick cursory search. Refraction. Here's the example. Look at the cranes. Don't look at the horizon. Don't look around the eyes. Look at the cranes. They're bent. Therefore, refraction. I'm not going to explain that refraction's a mathematical derivation in a view that doesn't have perspective, that sees the side of your own head. I'm not going to tell you that it needs a geometric horizon to derive it either. But refraction, look at the cranes. Don't look around the eyes. Don't look at the Earth curve hill that's not in the way. Because that's what the paradigm's been set up to do. Confuse you in such a manner that you won't recognise the very essence of the claim. The claim being that the horizon is a hill in the way.
And that's exactly my point. Sorry, real quick. That was exactly my point and why I brought it up, because it's literally the okie doke. Like you said, don't look at the horizon, look at the rigs. Well, that's what National Geographic does. It's look at the flag, look at the stripes that are disappearing. Don't look at the horizon all the way in the back.
Well, may I attack both
You can after
the
10th,
positive
because hold
claim
on.
they make?
You can after 10th. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, thanks. The subject matter expert that Chocolate is referring to, as well as the other ones that may fall into the same category, is Andrew Thomas Young. And Andrew Thomas Young said about refraction that all his refraction calculations came from a plane, but the Earth isn't flat. So what they do is and this will answer the other question I tried to get in 20 minutes ago. They take an assumption that they live on the globe, and then they try to mathematically get us to that globe when reality fights them. So it's the same as Andrew Thomas Young with reality, refraction over a plane, but then he has to assume he lives on a globe. So then he comes out with the next phrase. So we're going to do geometrical considerations. Oh, okay. So you assume the Earth is a globe first, then you do your refraction studies from a flat plane calculations, and then say, but I don't live on a flat Earth because I'm assuming a globe. So now let me mathematically get me back to a globe. It's just a model. It's just mathematical. It's not reality. They do this over and over and over again. Adam's point with Black Swan is, hey, it's supposed to be at 1.22 miles if we have an R value. Well, if we saw curvature at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer height, we wouldn't be saying the Earth isn't a sphere. We don't see curvature at 2 miles out at a 1 foot observer height. So we say, how'd you get your R value? Well, they got their R value because they assumed it was a globe. So it's just built on assumptions. That's why it's falling apart like a house of cards. There's something else I had to say, but I forgot. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going.
Oh, sorry. They're coming in thick and fast now still.
Copy mic. Copy mic.
It's so bloody windy at the beach. Maybe you could read it, but from Stephen Jones, I've just posted it in Masturbate.
Too small. I can't read that. Can someone read that?
I can read it. You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, terrestrial refraction is a refraction of light, you absolute imbecile. Then, refraction of light, you're likely an idiot parrot from QE, so you should know on Earth, then due to the atmosphere, we are talking about terrestrial refraction, which is still a refraction of light. You should know exactly what is being talked about.
Perfect. So what he's done is
You see how they work?
introduce a begging the question fallacy. So the word atmosphere is the assumption that light is going to be bending through sphere-shaped air. So we know that it's going to be 7/6 of a radius value because we live with sphere-shaped air that bends light at 7/6 of the radius value. How do I know? Well, because it's been ascribed as sphere-shaped air. Here it is. Atmosphere. So I assume air is sphere-shaped, therefore light will bend through it at the rate of the sphere-shaped air. So just beg the question. Well, let's just get down to brass tacks in terms of that sphere-shaped air. That would mean if you had sphere-shaped air, you had an R value to make the connection to it. And you get it from a geometric tangent point. That's Earth curve, the edge of it. Like in the diagrams earlier, the horizon marked with an X with a straight line to it. That's the geometric Earth curve hill in the way, with a straight line to it, to measure it, to prove it's there. What's that? You say that line's bent at a rate that precludes you from getting that line. You can't get that R to bend the line if you can't get the point at a tangent. So it's a paradox, fondly labelled the Arwinian paradox. Go ahead.
It's an incoherent logic statement. Okay, and to be fair to them, you just said earlier that you weren't going to allow to beg the question, but then you just did. So 7/6R being applied to light can only be applied to a single ray. It requires more than one ray to resolve an image. So that tells you something's wrong. What are they applying 7/6R to? Light? No, they're applying it to the radius of the Earth. How do we know this? Because they need a geometric horizon. You already said the Earth curve hump is in the way, but I can see something that I shouldn't see. So what do I need to do to solve this problem? I need to lower the hump. That way it's not in my way and I could see it. So to maintain my paradigm, I still need to be on a sphere, but I need to be in orthographic view to do this math. So I convert the sphere to a circle. I then use the circle segment formula, right? From point A to point B, which is a chord, right? I then get the sagittah between that, which is the apex arc, right? Part of the circle segment formula. I need to lower that. How do I do that? I change the radius. I increase it to 7/6. I haven't done anything with light. I've literally changed the radius. In that regard, it's still a geometric consideration. So now they're operating in a category error. Now, if you then give me a supersedery observation greater than 7/6, I just dial it up and lower the sagittah even more. Now, lo and behold, if you go to Walter Bizlet's calculator right now, you could do this for yourself and see that that's what it does. It lowers the sagittah, it changes the radius. Now you say, well, how much wiggle room do I have here? You know, these flat earthers are stressing me. I need to account for these observations. How far can I account for? Well, the reflection slider goes all the way to, you guessed it, my friend, 65 billion mile radius. So that should cover all observations any flat earther could come up with.
Other than you'd need a sagittah. What's a sagittah?
Yeah.
What's that?
Hold on.
Didn't hear you answer.
My answer was just laughter.
Yeah, but in seriousness, what's a sagittar?
Oh, the Sagittarius is the apex arc between point A and point B, otherwise known as the big hump of Earth curve in the way.
So you're going to need an Earth curve with a geometric straight line tangent to it in order to assert the maths in the first instance. Or to put it another way, you'll need R.
Well,
Object.
you got it. Now, I want to ask you this question. Do I need an exact
Ooh,
value
before
for
you get to
R?
asking a question, somebody objected. Go ahead, John.
Well, even if the horizon appeared at 1.22 times the observer's height in feet away from us, every time we viewed it, even if that held true, the positive claim that they make about the horizon, even if they're claiming the 7/6 R refraction, right? So move that horizon. None of them can be true. The Earth must be flat to acquire elevation angles.
Yeah, spot on. Okie dokie.
Hang on. I was waiting for someone to come in, but they didn't. So with that, we have documented from celestial navigation sources, not flat Earth sources, that's for sure, that all the angles come from something labeled 0 degrees. Now, I wonder what is labeled 0 degrees. Oh, yes, the equator. The plane of the equator, the center of Earth, is in the middle of that disk. And that's where all the measurements in the Nautical Almanac books are derived from and called true altitude. What the sailor navigator must do is whatever observations they take with the sextant, there's corrections, and the corrections are twofold. One is on the instrument itself to calibrate it properly to the plane of the instrument so you can get a vertical angle above the horizon, the sea horizon. And the other is corrections with your height above sea level and a few other corrections about celestial refraction. You know, that bendy crane, that's the same as a star low at the horizon. And they say, don't do those measurements because they'll apply more math, it'll take you longer. But we have standard formulas for it anyway, because you can only standardize them because you know what true altitude must be from the plane of the equator. So all of their angle measurements come from a flat disk, which is called 0 degrees, the plane of the equator. And everything a navigator does is to match that. So ball game over, and John is right.
Define refraction.
Deviation from straight in terms of light if it traverses two different mediums, in the case of Snell's law.
Snell's law? Really? Snell's law in optics, a relationship between the path taken by a ray of light. Rays of light don't exist, by the way, but I digress. And crossing the boundary or surface of separation between two contacting substances and the refractive index of each. Can you tell me where the two refractive indexes and the boundaries or surfaces are in our atmosphere, curve-shaped air?
No, but I can show you light deviating from its straight path in the form of those bendy cranes, can't I?
That's not Snell's law. That's not refraction.
What is it?
I'll tell you what
I have no idea, but it's not refraction.
Diffusion.
Oh,
I'll tell you what it is.
why isn't it refraction?
Because you don't have boundaries or surfaces.
Because it's not bending around a ball.
No, that's not refraction either. No, you're telling me you can't have two different densities of air, one being heated up below. Why not?
It's not two different densities. Listen to the definition again. Snell's law in optics, a relationship between the path taken by a ray of light that doesn't exist, by the way, but I digress, in crossing the boundary or surface of separation between two contacting substances. What are the two contacting substances in the atmosphere? Trainer.
I haven't got two different substances, but what I do have is
Fraction.
I've got a early stage of entropic diffusion with a more...
What?
I'm getting there. Give me a chance. I've got an early stage of entropic diffusion with a phase change taking place. So at the surface level of the water, you've got a phase change, and it's introducing a more higher density or higher concentration of water vapor into the air. Well, obviously, with time, that's going to diffuse throughout the air and eventually go up and form clouds. But because there's a very large surface of water, there's going to be a quote-unquote layer, and I use my words badly.
No, you don't. You don't got water either.
I mean, I don't got water. They're on
You
the
said
water.
water. Yeah, you said water. That's not liquid.
Water vapor.
We're talking about
I said water
atmosphere.
vapor. I said water vapor.
That's water vapor is not water. Liquid water.
So why are we having this conversation? Who cares? The
Because
argument's
no
about
one
the
knows what
horizon.
refraction is.
Well, only because I can see bendy cranes. Not in these images of the black swan, but in some of them.
May I throw 2 cents in on this?
No, just give me a minute.
You still haven't overcome Snell's law.
Okay, it doesn't meet the definition of Snell's law. I'll concede.
It's a red herring.
It's over right there. Why even go any further?
I didn't even need to go that far. I don't know why we ended in the argument. The argument's about the horizon. Whereas when they begurk refraction, that Andrew Thomas Young claim that's on screen now defies what they require in their first instance claim. The point marked G is Earth curve horizon. If it's not at G, it's not blocking the Isle of Man, it's not blocking boats and buildings, it's not got things falling over it with a measurable value in feet and inches that excludes perspective. The moment you refract the horizon, it's no longer geometric, it's no longer Earth curve. So who cares?
Number one,
Also-
you can't have refraction. You can't have refraction because it doesn't meet the definition. Number two, even in their fairy tale paradigm, you can't refract the horizon.
Correct.
Everything's in relation to the horizon.
Exactly.
Number two. Number
Exactly.
three, you need curved gases. Gases have no definite shape. And then you need a radius value. Then
Precisely.
you need two substances. This is why don't you just call it amoeba 7-6?
There you go. So there's a list of about 5 different things that you can spot. I think I went through 3 of them just before you got here, actually, QE, and I'll put one of them back up on screen because I already identified it. The use of the word atmosphere. What you need as a glober to make this 7/6R terrestrial refraction that needs an R that's debunked if you're using it on the horizon is sphere-shaped air. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere. It's an arbitrarily assigned assumption to air that's in a vacuum taking the shape of a sphere and not dispersing into the vacuum. It's horse crap.
Ed failed first grade intro to gas behavior, literally. Grade level. This is from Christy Bodak, Southwestern University. Grade level. I will use this lesson with a first grade class. If an object is in a gaseous state of matter, it will not have a definite shape or a definite volume. You'd fail. All the ballers, you'd fail. First grade intro to gas behavior. You're
Well, the globe
fanatical,
model, if you
religious
reify
parts.
it, the globe model fails 5th grade general introduction to gas behavior because the globe model violates that gas behavior in its description. The gas that's around the sphere Earth in the model, because we don't live on that model, but in the idea of that model, that idea wouldn't work in physical reality because the gas, the clouds that you see when they show you Earth from space, you've got clouds around the blue marble, right? They're right next to a vacuum. That's high pressure gas not dispersing. It's ludicrous.
What model?
The
Can I see that
container,
model?
just like water.
Yeah.
So is the firmament sphere or dome shaped?
What's the
Excuse me, before we go on to the red herring of the firmament, I just want to point out again that Earth cannot be curving at a rate of R or 7/6R, else you would not be able to attain elevation angles.
Yeah, it violates
Thank
the
you,
celestial
John.
sphere model as well.
Yeah, but
Nathan, can you go to Master B?
I can, but this guy has just grabbed the reins. 10th.
Well, but I tried to get this in while you were talking to QE. You forget that?
I didn't hear
Yeah,
you.
and
Too
I
bad.
asked what model.
Okay, right. We're going to deal with this swiftly because otherwise it's going to descend into not enough time to cover everything. So 10th, you go first. Then the guy from Firmament Discord guy will come to you after.
Okay. All of the books say refraction is cold air and hot air, whether it's water is cold and the air is hot above the water, something to that effect. So here's one, and this one I just grabbed. It says abnormal refraction. Deceptions of vision at sea are produced by abnormal refraction of light, which in the more extreme cases give rise to false images of land, ships, and other objects. Generally, abnormal refraction at sea is due to an inversion of temperature in a layer of air, and variations in density thus produce, causing the light rays to be bent considerably in excess of normal conditions. The most frequent and most favorable conditions for excess refraction, under which most of more fantastic forms of mirage or distortion take place, occur when the layer of warm air is in contact with cooler water. The air next to the surface of the sea is cooled, and consequently the upper layers are warmer than the lower, so that instead of the usual decrease, there's an increase of temperature with height. Most refraction phenomena are formed at the boundary between the cold, dense layer of air and the surface of the sea, and the less dense, warm air above.
Isn't that what I said? That's pretty much what I said, isn't it? I know you're going to laugh at it, but that's what I said, isn't it?
That's beautiful. This condition is identical to that which is responsible for the formation of most sea fog. Therefore, the presence of fog is an indication that excessive refraction is likely to be encountered. Similar inversions may be caused by presence of cold air over warm water. A marked difference between air and sea temperature is therefore another guide to the presence of excessive refraction. Although abnormal refraction is not restricted to particular geographical areas, certain regions, here we go, of the globe are so situated with respect to general meteorological conditions as to be more favorable than others for the occurrence of abnormal refraction phenomena. The polar coasts are among the most favorable of these regions because of the frequently prevalent marked difference between sea and air temperatures. Now, he's talking about if you're near the polar areas and have ice, but nowhere, not even once, 7/6R. Nothing.
No, because that's a derivation of an R value, a geometric value that only applies in a mathematics that excludes all perspective and all views that you could actually take in with your eyeballs.
That's not refraction.
I was going to say, I was getting there, I promise. It says refraction, but in that respect, is that any more or less refraction than terrestrial refraction? Abnormal refraction? It's like, what's refraction? Is that occurring? Now, by the classic definition, if you read off Snell's law, no, it's not. What's the two different mediums? Well, there isn't. Now, you can describe the diffusion occurring, but that's a bit loose, isn't it? It sounds very much like they've decided to ascribe it to that effect. But is it? Well, we don't know. It might be.
No, but QE is right here because when they come back, they always show that straw or spoon in a glass of water. Okay, two different mediums. Okay, but that's not what's happening at sea. It's the air next to the water, and the horizon is a demarcation. It's not, you're not sticking anything in the sea. It's where they meet. And it's the same reason why they don't want you to take star sightings from 0 to 10 to 15 degrees above sea level. It's that same thing with the Rayleigh criteria. It's everything comes back to what? Compression. And it's like, well, there's too many things happening here at the low level. So let's go higher to get a clear understanding of where the angle is.
Not true with the stars, though, is it?
No, they have a table for this thing exactly and no more than 34 minutes. So they already know what it is. It's not 7/6R.
I agree with you in every respect. I'm just trying to trigger Brian. Right. Okay. Let's just say there's a hill in the way between you and a star that you're observing at the horizon. Forget about refraction just for a moment. hopefully Brian's listening. If you have the horizon, that's Earth curve in this example, blocking your view because you're only half a foot above the water, or a foot, just to make the maths easy, right? So you've got a hill in the way at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, according to the globe Earth claim. Earth curve blocks your view. Okay. So therefore, as you rise in elevation, it should be possible to bring stars back from behind the obstruction. Because all you're doing, if Earth is a sphere with an obstruction, is raising your view above the obstruction if you raise in height. So riddle me this. If you raise in height, can you bring a star back from behind Earth curve? Answer, no. They don't behave in that way. Why? Because the horizon isn't an Earth curve hill obstructing the view of the star. Once it goes beyond the horizon, that's it.
Yeah, I hope QE is listening. Is QE still there? Because he hasn't heard this one. I'll take it he's listening.
It's the celestial black swan. If the Earth's a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to the obstruction blocking your view of the star can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and will be less of an obstruction as you raise in altitude, bringing back the star from behind the hill that obscures it. And if it doesn't, then it isn't.
Yeah, is QE there? He was there a minute ago. I was listening in. Are you there, QE? Well, I'll just throw it out anyway. Yeah. If a boat is at the equator and it's using a marine sextant, take its angle to Polaris, we'll see Polaris at 0. If there's an airplane at the equator that's 6 miles above sea level, and its navigator uses a bubble sextant to take an angle to Polaris, it will get 0 also. Now, the claim for a long time has been that the reason the boat gets 0, the mariner on the boat, is due to Earth curve causing the 0. But a pilot in a plane can be directly above that boat, 6 miles up in the sky, and still get a 0. They're both getting a 0. Now, I postulate that it's due to the horizon always appearing to rise to eye level. But I don't know what the real reason is. I know that it's not Earth curve.
Let's just preemptively discuss the rebuttal. So let's just say they, for the sake of argument, say that light's coming in parallel. So not bending at a rate of r, but all of it, everywhere, across every perspective view you have, is all straight, always lining up with each other parallel, with the stars. Definitely not bending at a rate of r then.
No.
No.
Can't.
And the horizon's definitely not getting in the way of the star. And then if you get a bit higher, it's not getting in the way like a hill. Because if your view of a star that's at 10 degrees is obscured by a hill, and you go up in altitude, you can bring a star back from behind a hill. But Earth curve isn't the horizon. It doesn't behave like a hill that's blocked your view of a star that you can go up higher to relieve yourself of that obstruction. It never works like that with the Earth curve. And the fact that they are the same at any altitude, their explanation for it completely flies in the face of their claim of Earth curve with a geometric value ascribed to refraction.
They're screwed.
Yeah.
They're totally screwed.
And John would say refractive curvature at this point, you can't get a what?
An elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. Sorry, John. Thought you'd gone.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. So like when we discuss Earth curve or anything like that, how did we measure anything involving an angle with a curved baseline?
We didn't. What we did do is measure Earth as a flat plane. And with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, hit the thanks button after the fact, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day! He's got 50 people there.
Well, the reason they're Jim Pandas. Oh, go ahead. Who's talking to you?
Sorry, just saying. Sorry, Neil. I was driving there. No. And would you believe they just don't address that? What I said, the thing with the plane and the boat. They don't.
Oh, I know they don't.
All they said was, and this is why Nathan pointed out the paradox. This is Nathan's paradox. Is that all he said was parallel light rays. Like the whole point is that the boat has a physical blockage, but they relinquished their curve for the boat, and playing parallel light rays was blocking both of the. It's just they had nothing. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. Parallel light rays, because they didn't have anything. There was no way out of it. There's no way out of that one.
Parallel at 7/6R, right?
Exactly.
How does parallel light rays work if they're supposed to be curving around the globe all the time?
They all work.
I'm waiting for someone prevalent to claim it so I can rub their nose right in it.
How are you going to measure the angles of the rays to assert they're parallel with the curved baseline?
You can't measure those elevation angle measurements to these stars in any instance unless you've got a flat baseline to do it. Earth must be flat in order to make this claim at all, ever.
I told you guys before that response was quick, say words, say something. That's what parallel light rays are.
Yeah. It's more and more screwed the further we go into this because they need straight lines. Their geometry depends upon it. And they bent them back in 2020. And they can't unbend them anymore. And when they go to geometric horizons, you get someone like Rufy, who was the person I've been rubbing his nose in this since, I don't know, halfway through 2020. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy? Straight line, right? Straight line. Yeah, I don't have one of them, do you? Refracted at 7/6 of a radius. You don't have a straight line to a geometric horizon. Unlucky. What's that you say? Okay, we've got to accept that it's refracted anyway. Okay, right. So when we go up higher, why don't we get the star coming back from behind the horizon? If it's Earth curve, a hill in the way, right? We can just go higher than the hill, and it'll be behind the hill, right? It's blocked by the hill, Earth curve, right? What's that? Light coming in parallel? Straight lines? What about refraction? What about 7/6 of the radius? Make up your mind.
They don't think when they speak. I'm telling you.
That's rest in peace to your geometric horizon based on observer height.
No, Tent, rest. Chocolate, rest in pain. They are resting in pain.
That too.
When they proved that fire was an oxidation reaction, right? When they proved that's what fire was, did the people arguing phlogiston against that as having the positive claim of elevation angles?
Say that again, John.
Well, when they proved that fire wasn't because right, when they proved that, and then they showed it, was there people that were arguing for phlogiston vehemently out there, like in full support of phlogiston, and calling the people that said it's not phlogiston morons?
I doubt that somehow. Just on a point on that parallel light rays. Parallel light rays only works with a geometric horizon, because the whole point of them was that it allowed them to match the shadows that we see in reality. That was the point of the parallel light rays. So, because they had a curved surface, they need parallel light rays for that curve to give them the shadows. But that only works with a geometric situation. It won't work with a 7/6R. The parallel light rays can't work with 7/6R in two ways, not just the way Nathan said.
It can't work with the geometric. It can't work with the sphere either. To assert that
but the point I'm making is orthographically, they can show it working with a sphere of that size. They can show how parallel light rays will work with a sphere of that size and give them the shadows they need, but not with 7/6R. Because with 7/6R would be a changeable situation. So the shadows would change. There'd never be a constant shadow on a like the shadow you get today from the sun this day next year. If you had the same exact conditions, the sun in the same place, the shadow would have to be different, or be different all the time, because if what you're seeing is changing all the time, then and growing bigger, and smaller all the time, then your shadows will have to change.
Well, now orthographically, they cannot show parallel rays from the surface of Earth, and that's the important part, because
they're not.
Earth's surface is curving in that orthographic view they're showing, so that can't be what's happening, because they're getting angles to assert these lights are parallel to each other, right?
Yeah, it's a contradiction in terms. It violates its own claimed measurement. You said it 3 times throughout the show, and the penny's only just dropped with that explanation, John.
They're constantly contradicting themselves. Constantly.
You want to go through that again, John? If you've got the light coming in parallel and you're measuring an angle to the light at its point source, then you can't feasibly have all the light coming in parallel. It's a self-contradictory description. Do you want to just go through it in your words, because they're better than mine? The penny's only dropped 20 seconds ago for me, so...
Well, they're showing an orthographic view, the light rays coming to Earth parallel, but they had to measure the rays from the surface to get the angles to assert they were parallel. That they're showing that surface as curved, so that is not the angles on the surface of Earth.
Right. It's like when they show the sticks and shadows on a globe Earth with a tick next to it, and they've got all the different angles lined up along the curved surface, and you're like, none of these are angles.
You got it. They're using a flat Earth, and then they're just bending it afterwards.
Well, they can't do that.
They have done that. That's what they do. In the description after the fact, that's how idiots who come and draw these diagrams rationalise the lack of ability to acquire an angle. They just draw a 90 degree on a curve. And mentally, they probably don't even consider it until we come along and point it out.
Well, that's a 90 degree to a curve. We're talking about from a curve, you can't get an angle. It's one of their little tricks they do in their mind where they confuse the word to and from.
Regardless of whether it's to or from, they literally have to draw a right angle on a curve, which it isn't. They draw a little square box from the line going up at their zenith to the curved surface below with the angle out to the star. You're like, but that isn't a flat baseline. That isn't going to give you an angle. That's a curve that you've just drawn a little box that would typically represent where 90 is. But it's not meeting at 90. It's meeting a curve. It isn't even an angle, let alone 90.
Yes. Yep. Okay. You understood what I'm saying. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just not very eloquent at it yet. I will be tomorrow or the day after, or once you've repeated it 10 times. Or caught me out not recognising it now. I have stated publicly that I do recognise it and understand it, so every time I get caught out, I'll start chuckling along with you.
Yeah, but that's how it has to be. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Then it gets in there, and then bang, light bulb connection.
It is repetition, but by the same token, today especially, I don't know why, throughout that whole live show, I felt like I was really being kept on my toes. You know, everyone wants to get a piece of the action. Everyone wants to talk about really good evidence and proof. And we want to pull apart their paradigm in the most concise way without stepping on each other's toes. But that's fairly, I don't want to say it was a stressful show. It wasn't. But in terms of what I have to do in terms of my involvement, it's still quite a high degree. In other words, for me as a host, it's incredibly engaging. This show, Flat Earth Debate, is still engaging for me. It's still, I can't think of the word to say to describe it, but there's no lull.
Invigorating.
It's still that's the word. Brilliant word. Someone would come up with it. It's still invigorating. I'm still being kept on my toes every time I do it, even though, as you correctly point out, we are going through the same motions. Each time they go through the cycle, they get a little bit more polished, though, don't they? We're at the tip of the
Slowly
spear,
but
and we're
steadily.
sharpening and refining the edge constantly.
But we're a lot quicker, though. You know, the anti-flat earthers, they have this very slow doom progression thing going. It's very slow, and they're always late to the game with everything. But
They're like the government.
they are slowly learning. in their
That's just
collective.
dicks. No, I just see them as dicks.
They're like the government. Like
I don't see it.
websites,
I don't see
so
this as.
slow
Sorry, whoever that was. Who's talking?
Eli.
Sorry, Eli. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying they're like the government like systems. It's always slow and not yet updated, and it's like, you know, it's just like that. You come to them with a problem, then they have to process it, but they don't have the processing power, and then you just end up with an automated service that never helps you.
Right, outdated solutions.
I like
Only
that a lot.
solutions.
I like that a lot. It's like the bureaucracy of general government going to the DMV for you guys, or for us, the DVLA, right? If you've got some issue that you need to be resolved, and it's incredibly difficult, but they haven't got the processes to figure out how they're going to resolve it. For example, if your car that you bought secondhand yesterday happened to have been in a horrible police chase and reported as stolen, and then had its number plates all logged on the system because they were all looking for it a week ago, right? And then you find that you're constantly getting pulled over, and you try and get in touch with the DMV and say, look, I just need someone to address the fact that this isn't owned by a criminal anymore, it's owned by me, and I don't want to be pulled over every time I drive the car because it's flagging up all the computers. And just all you get is this grind of nothing happening and no one helping, right? That's like us trying to address the ball Earth in terms of them and their cognition being the same grind and them slowly having it sink in. But I actually, Eli, that is a brilliant way of describing it. I was actually talking the flip side of that. So if you want to, on the flip side of that exact coin, the grind, the slowness of your general population, or the anti-flat earth heretics getting this stuff and the information being permeated so they understand it through repetition, right? On the flip side, you've got us being the equivalent of like a computer chip manufacturer or something that's right on the cutting edge of technology. But each time they bring out something new, it isn't necessarily as revolutionary as bringing out the chip at all, or having a computer, a processor chip. It's a refinement. It just gets a bit quicker, or could do a bit more. But it's ultimately just the same thing being polished up and sharpened and refined again and again and again. Now, you could be that guy who's working at Intel or AMD or wherever and goes, this is a bit boring, isn't it? We only made 6% improvement last year. Oh, it's like nothing's happening. It's like we're grinding to a halt. But then the guy next to him goes, are you having me on? We are on the absolute cutting edge of this stuff. Are you joking? Right? We're putting the fastest, most advanced CPU technology through the mill to get it better. And you don't think that's exciting? It's just a different way of looking at it. But I certainly see the movement through the world that we're now enamored by, whereas previously it was indifference. That is like more akin to the processor analogy than the DMV analogy. It's akin to the DMV for the globies and heretics, but for us, we're on the cutting edge, of potential advancement in actual knowledge.
Yeah, but how can you call them slow? I disagree. They're just ignorant. You had Jim Panda at that street rally that they had still asserting that the horizon was Earth curve. So where is that slow? That's just outright ignorant.
Well, that's just slow,
routine.
Isn't it? Well, you mean he hasn't picked up on the fact it's not Earth curve yet, but that's not slow? When he criticises something that's in front of him debunking the Earth curve, saying it's just repetition of Nathan's disciples' rhetoric, but he's already claimed one of the things on the list, with Earth curve being the horizon. That's just being slow. Slow on the uptake.
I think it's being ignorant.
No, hold on. No, it's not slow. It's routine. It's what you need to do to keep the globe nonsense going. Is you go all the way back to the beginning of the labyrinth, and then you start over again. You start the story all over again. That's how they always do it. That's how they've always done it.
Who was it at the beginning of the pre-show that said they're all scared? It might have been Chocolate on a different clip I was working on, but it might have been you a couple of days ago, Chocolate, but you were describing how scared they all are. And after you said it, I was like, yeah, you really are right on the money there. They're terrified. Gem Panda, as much as it comes across as aggression, it was earlier, it was abstruse when we were talking about the flip sides, yin and yang of the same coin, right? They might seem really aggressive, but actually they're really scared. Gem, conspiracy cats, I'm sure there's a few other examples, but they're terrified of this stuff. They don't want it not to be a globe. That scares the living crap out of them. They want it to be a sphere, and the idea and notion that it could possibly be anything other than their preconceived notion is terrifying.
Yes, they feel compromised, for sure.
That was the Robinson video, and it was Chocolate.
But also abstruse earlier today.
Did the firmament guy ever get addressed?
No.
Well, he was wondering if the firmament was what shape it was. Who cares?
I asked him, what's the firmament? What's that?
Well, I call it containment.
Nobody is asking you. The guy who posed the question, when you ask about this firmament, what is this firmament that you speak of? He's probably not even here.
What do
Probably
you
got bored
think
and buggered
about
off.
the GoPro rocket that they sent perfectly straight up, not at an angle like the ones NASA tries to fake or whatever, but they sent this one straight up, and it sounded like it plunged in the water and like slowed down it insanely quickly.
Yeah,
I know the video.
Okay,
Hold on.
okay.
Can I know the video you're talking about,
Yeah, it's
right?
from about
We
2015.
treated this on the Flat Earth debates before,
Yes,
like
thank
not
you.
too long ago even.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there seems to be, it's an auto brake system that actually caused that bump-like effect.
The yo-yo.
It's built into the rocket.
It's designed to spin in the opposite direction inside the rocket to stop it from rotating and slow it down. They call it something like the yo-yo mechanism, and it's like a pre-tension spring that unwinds in the opposite direction.
So that could have been faked.
Did you take that could have been faked? Yeah, it could have been faked.
It's not faked.
It looked
It's
pretty
what
real.
it is.
Looked pretty real to me.
I'm saying it didn't plunge into anything, making it stop.
No, that was your mind filling it in. That was thinking what it is.
Not necessarily his mind, more Geo Strieber specifically saying that's what it was in his video about it.
And how could there be not more of a collision? I'm sorry.
Because it was an automated mechanism within the thing that caused it. And
So they say.
I know.
So they
into
say.
any firmament.
Could have been the bubbles from the firmament.
That was the claim, that there's a mechanism. The claim was that there's a mechanism that caused.
You need a barrier, a solid barrier to contain air pressure.
That's correct.
So if that was the case, that rocket would have got crushed or exploded.
If it hit a barrier,
That was my point.
If it hit a barrier, but it didn't seem to hit any barrier, did it?
But did it appear to hit liquid, or was that them doing something to slow it down
Hold on a second.
internally?
We've gone from
There was no
somehow?
damage on the rocket, not even a scratch,
We've
because
gone
of
from-
the impact, the alleged impact.
We've gone from it hitting a barrier to now it not being a barrier but seeming like it's hitting water. This is a long way away from it not hitting a barrier, which it didn't. It didn't hit any barrier.
No, that's not biblical.
Am I right? You're
Neil.
going to
That's
biblical route?
fantastical. It's just nonsense. We already know what caused this video, what the thing that drew our attention, what was caused, right? We know that. So
Well, we don't know. We know what they say. We know the official narrative.
well, there's a mechanism. I mean,
So they say.
seriously, if there is a literal mechanism in the system, I mean, come on.
So they say.
Would that be a point that you would ask for a
Fair
citation?
enough.
I think he's talking about the waters above in the Bible.
We know
That's
what he's talking
referring
about,
to.
Neil.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah,
Well, that would be the point.
Is the container that holds in our air, is it fluidic or rigid?
It's rigid.
Fluid?
Rigid.
Really?
There are no
How?
fluidic containers, so I don't really know what you mean, unless you're going to describe a bubble. You can have gases trapped within liquids, but to have the containment that we observed, there's got to be a solid barrier, unless you can show a liquid barrier doing the same thing. I don't know of any liquids that do that beyond the example I just gave with bubbles.
You were chopping a little bit.
That's on a small scale too, right? It's only in the micro.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
In the large scale, yeah, the surface tension and all that from bubble formation, it doesn't work like that, right? It just can't sustain itself naturally like that. There has to be some kind of physical obstruction or lack of space type obstruction.
But why is he asking the question? I mean, beyond what it states in the Bible and beyond an assumption, beyond the rhetoric that is a yo-yo mechanism unwinding to stop a rocket that's gone up relatively high from spinning around, is there anything else that you have to rely upon to suggest that it might be water? Because as far as I'm concerned, it must just be a solid container of some description. Why water? That's what I'm asking.
What? That's
I'm
just Neil saying that.
I'm asking Cyvamp.
No, he said water.
Well,
not me.
the Bible said divided the waters from above from the waters below.
Yeah, and the yo-yo mechanism. But beyond that, is there anything else to actually suggest that the sky is water?
Liquid
I
water.
don't know.
Right? Because there is water vapor in the air, like an actual liquid layer up there, supposedly. Right? That's what people popularly believe now.
Why?
Some,
Do they? Why?
I don't know, because of it was biblically inspired, I guess. That's what it did to me. I never really held on to it, but
Of course, it's repeated. It's repeated in the Psalms after the flood, so that's why it's brought up.
Okay. But that doesn't in any way make me think the sky is made of water. Liquid water.
Read the passage again.
Which passage?
Yeah, the gentleman that brought it up, read the passage again.
I don't have a Bible in front of me.
I think he
And I
went
need to get
off
busy.
the cuff.
Me being on here talking is slowing me down. I'm trying to strap a load down to a trailer.
Okay. Am I still choppy in Discord?
Not at the moment.
That sentence wasn't choppy.
Okay.
A bit more. A bit more, please.
Is this sentence choppy?
Go a little bit longer.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Nathan's live stream test of his audio. How does that sound?
The first of it chopped.
Okay, I'll have a look.
Anyone have that passage on hand? I'm currently doing something else. I can get to it in about 3 minutes.
One last question. Am I at any point chopping in G+? Thanks, so helpful. If I'm not chopping in G+, I need to address the problem in Discord itself. If I am, it's an issue with my desk. Can somebody in G+ tell me if at any stage of the show or after show if I've been choppy?
I've not heard it.
I'm pretty good now.
I think I have the passage.
I got
if
an
you want me
answer
to
from
read it.
Discord and 3 answers at the same time from G+. That's wonderful. Just one. Brian went first. Am I choppy or have I been choppy at any stage, Brian?
The last
I
few
have heard you
seconds
being
you were
choppy, but I
good.
I can't bloody
Just
believe it.
before that,
Second
you were
time in a
choppy.
row somebody talked from Discord. G+. Brian, specifically. If your name is not Brian and you are not in G+, shut up! At any stage in the show, Brian, have I been choppy?
I didn't hear you being choppy at all, Nathan, but I missed some of the show, so I don't know if it ever happened.
Fine, it would have happened in the last 10 minutes. That should have taken 10 seconds. As you were.
Okay, I have the passage if you want me to read it.
Hold off on the passage for a second, Neil.
Oh, you asked for it.
Yeah, but Nathan's right in the middle of something.
No, I'm done now. I just need to know
He's
where I need to
done.
address the problem. I need to address the problem in Discord. So I can do that while you guys are talking amongst yourselves. I'm done. I said as you were.
Go ahead.
And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And so it was so.
All right. So the gentleman's depiction of it earlier was incorrect. The waters are above the firmament. Above firmament. Above that barrier. Follow?
Correct.
Can I get a quote for the barrier?
What is the barrier?
Firmament.
Right. No, the barrier.
Who cares what it is?
assumed,
There's a
and
barrier.
It's a good assumption. It's a
Do
logical.
I need to know the color of the cow or the length of the cow's tail when I'm eating filet mignon? No, I know there's a cow, right?
Right, but there's a translation
There
in
has to be
context.
containment, but that doesn't
rakia.
mean that the.
Yeah, rakia. What does rakia mean? So
Something
you're not
hard
even
like metal.
answering the darn. It's like talking to somebody on friggin'. You can't focus. You always red herring fallacy, incoherent red herring fallacy away from the topic. What does what you just said have anything to do with the previous point? Please, floor is yours. Unbelievable. So what does rakia mean? My word. Has ether got it into your brain so much that you can't focus on the topic? Yes? No? My God, sir.
I think you may be overshooting a little.
Well, what was Cuddles saying?
Maybe it's
That
the
there's a
distance to the
separation?
sun. Unbelievable.
We don't know what the sun is or that it's even an object. So
What is the distance to the sun?
Who knows?
Oh, man. I
But
need a
Cuddles was saying
vacation
there's a
from you guys.
transition in what I read. I want to know what the transition, where the transition took place, because I didn't see any. Oh, Cuddles offended. I'm sorry.
Did I hear
So the
someone
answer
say that
is,
we
I
claim the
don't.
distance to the sun?
So the answer is I don't care instead of I don't know.
So the distance to the sun is what?
Do you know the distance to the sun?
We have an angle to the sun. We don't have a distance to it, though. I didn't know we claimed. Does anybody claim a distance to the sun?
Not on this side of the flat earth debate. And if you do, you better damn well have it validated.
Is it possible to determine the distance of the sun by looking at it and measuring it?
Without knowing all the factors involved, no.
Doesn't matter.
By just looking
got
at
a
something,
question on
how are
the-
you going to know the distance?
Can I just check?
Like
Can I just check how clear I am in Discord now? Check 1, 2. How clear am I in Discord?
Now you're chopping.
Still choppy? Huh.
Yes.
Then I might just restart
pop
myself. Hold on.
Did
Just
you
one more
pop-
question.
Log out and
Just one more question. Are the guys in G Plus choppy to you too?
We didn't hear any of that, Nathan.
Are the guys in G Plus also choppy to you?
Low
Am
bet.
I choppy when I
You're
talk to
chopping the
you?
most.
Am I choppy?
Oh, shut up, Arwin.
Dude, I'm testing.
I'm trying to
hey,
establish what the fuck's wrong and you can't shut up. I'm talking to the guys in
Hey, sir.
Discord. You can hear me talking to them about Discord and what they can hear of you. Does that mean I need to eat you? Just shut up. So you're saying they are also choppy?
Yeah, you're chopping real bad now. Try to jump out and come back in again.
I was going to say it's probably an issue. Okay. Sorry, Arwin.
All right.
Just stressful. I've got a lot of crap going on. Every time I change something on the system in preparation for the new computer, everything seems to reset. Now, the guy said he put a new CMOS battery in, but as far as I'm concerned, every time I do a reset, I lose all my settings. I can't. It's now at the point where I can't wait to see the back of this stupid computer. Hello,
Wow,
Discord.
that's
Can you
tough.
hear us clearer now?
Give us a longer sentence radio
Welcome
check.
to a sound check that has had a restart in Discord.
No. It's worse.
Oh,
Worse.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Discord's fucked today.
Check one. How about that? I've now changed the audio format completely. How's that?
Still chopping.
Still chopping. What the hell? Okay. And it's choppy for everyone, right? It's not just you.
In Discord, is he chopping real bad for everyone?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
The chopper.
Nathan, I sent you a message in Skype to try and explain the issue better. How it sounds to me.
Okay, thank you. Great that you can all keep a conversation going while I'm trying to sort a technical issue. Thanks. I'll just round out then, shall I?
I think everybody's afraid to speak.
I was thought you. But somebody was talking about the distance of the sun and whether we care.
John,
or
can you
not.
shut up? I'm trying to sort this out. What's your problem?
That's a good one. Yeah, John, that's somebody was saying, can we just look at the sun and get the distance? Said something else, but I didn't hear him.
Yeah. The other people are chopping too, Nathan. And G plus coming through you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So if I continue to talk, I will annoy the piss out of people in Discord,
Yes.
right?
Please continue.
But maybe you should just end the show then.
Just let Nathan work it out.
Oh, we don't want to hear that. I'm with you, Owen.
This is yet another proof that the Earth is a sphere, gentlemen.
That's correct.
But this is Discord, man. Come on, Discord. Discord is always doing this shit, right? Discord is not a completely cleared platform. Like, it has massive issues and
Hold on,
it's
not just
unpredictable.
this. It's not just Discord, because when I listen to the show back, the beginning of everything I say is chopped off.
That's just your mic.
See, but that's the reason that Discord always has problems is because the Earth is a sphere. See, that's the proof in of itself.
No, yeah, no. I think that we are becoming very dangerous to everybody. So now they're sending little sneak attacks in Discord, making the sound system bad. You know, you got to think like the enemy thinks.
Right. We get the spiritual covert attacks. So means we're on a roll. That's what that means. Don't let it distract you. Don't let it deter you. Just keep going. We're on target. That's why this is happening.
It would be hilarious. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say it'd be hilarious to see them dressed up in like druid cloaks around an altar that's got a globe on it with candles lit. So, and then a picture of Nathan like pinned on the top with an X through his face.
And QE right next to him.
Yeah, they probably have like QE kidnapped in the background and like hog-tied and gagged so he wouldn't. It's like now it can be a sphere again.
The two most dangerous men to sphere Earth. We must deal with these two.
And they don't even realize that their crazy behaviors are more dangerous than we are. You know what I mean? Like, the more outlandish they get, the more insane their claims become, the more of a danger they are than we are, you know?
We're right on target, guys. I mean, look, we discovered that the globe model couldn't even exist if they hadn't the flat Earth to base all their measurements on. This is over beyond over.
Game over, man. Game over.
Okay, I'm changing to something major, so this might cause a rapid disruption. We'll see.
Everybody get to the chopper. I think we got to continue to speak.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. Is he wanting us to be quiet for this?
No, I've changed it. I just don't think it's going to apply unless I do a reset. So, yeah, it's all ballsed up again. It's because I pulled a load of cables out yesterday, and in so doing, when I've reconnected the Audient, the preamp, it's got a whole bunch of its own settings that it likes to offer up, and then they invade your sound settings, and it's put all sorts of crazy defaults. So I found the problem. So I'm sorry to the guys in Discord. This problem will hopefully be resolved tomorrow.
Yep, just turn your computer off and on again.
Well, it's just once it's got the settings applied, I'd have to shut down Discord, have to shut down Voice Meet. Oh, although no, I'd have to restart.
You don't want to do it right now.
No, I can't. I'll round out this show though. I will. So with that, I'm going to say
Did you
another huge.
unplug any cables that is near anything creating vibrations, like a fan or something similar? Maybe one of your cables doesn't have good enough connection, and if it's experiencing vibrations, you know, in relation to audio, maybe that could be possible.
I don't think so. I think it's ballsed up where it's looking for the signal because the audience put loop back into the equation.
Yeah, I don't even know what you said.
Fair
Do I sound choppy to you?
You sound beautiful to me, but that's all that matters to the audience, and the show's gone on reasonably well up until this point, but I think this is where it'll descend, so I'm going to round out on that note. So huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary Streams. Hope you're smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!